They say you never truly know someone until money's involved. Well, I learned that lesson at the most expensive restaurant in Chicago, wearing my best dress, watching my husband of 15 years slide divorce papers across the table like I was nothing. But that billionaire had no idea who he was messing with. Before I tell you how I brought a billionaire to his knees, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single second of this, and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. Now let's get into it. My name is Diana Hayes, and up until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. Beautiful mansion in Lincoln Park, closets full of designer clothes, and a husband who was worth over $200 million. But here's what nobody tells you about being married to a billionaire. Sometimes you're just another asset they're ready to liquidate when something shinier comes along. It was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. 17 years together, 15 of them married. Preston told me to wear something special, made reservations at the most exclusive steakhouse in the city, the kind of place where they don't even list prices on the menu. I wore this burgundy dress I'd been saving, got my hair done, my nails done. I was excited, you know. We'd been distant lately, but I thought maybe this was him trying to reconnect. God, I was so stupid. I should have known something was wrong when I walked in and saw her sitting at our table. This young woman couldn't have been older than 28, with this smug little smile on her face. Preston stood up, didn't even kiss me hello, and said, "Diana, this is Candace, my executive assistant. She's going to be joining us tonight." The way he said it, so cold, so formal. That's when I knew my life was about to explode. We sat down, and I'm looking around confused, and Preston just reaches into his briefcase and slides this manila envelope across the table. Right there, in front of Candace, in front of the other diners who were already starting to stare. "Divorce papers," he said, like he was discussing a business merger. "I need you to sign them tonight. I've already had my lawyers review everything. The prenup is ironclad. You'll get a small settlement, but the mansion, the cars, the accounts, they all stay with me." I couldn't breathe. I looked at Candace, and she had the audacity to reach over and touch his hand. That's when he said it, the words that still make my blood boil. "Candace and I are in love. We're moving forward together. You've been a good wife, Diana, but it's time for both of us to move on. Be grateful for what you're getting. Grateful. This man wanted me to be grateful while he humiliated me in public, while he threw away 15 years like they meant nothing." Security came over because I guess I raised my voice. I don't even remember what I said. But next thing I know, I'm being escorted out of the restaurant while Preston and Candace sit there, probably ordering the most expensive wine on the menu with my credit card. I drove to my sister Denise's apartment in a daze. My phone was blowing up because someone had filmed the whole thing and posted it online. "Billionaire dumps wife for younger woman at restaurant." The comments were brutal. Half the people were calling me stupid for not seeing it coming. The other half were making jokes about how I was getting what I deserved for marrying rich in the first place. I cried in Denise's bathroom for 3 hours straight. She kept knocking on the door, telling me it was going to be okay. But I didn't believe her. How could it be okay? I'd given this man everything. I'd worked 2 jobs to put him through his last year of business school while I delayed my own education. I'd networked, hosted parties, played the perfect wife while he built his real estate empire. And this was how it ended, with divorce papers at dinner and a mistress half my age wearing the earrings I'd helped him pick out. But somewhere around 2 a.m, sitting on that bathroom floor, something shifted in me. I stopped crying and started thinking. Preston always underestimated me. He saw me as this simple girl from the South Side who got lucky when he married her. But what he forgot was that I wasn't just some trophy wife. I have an accounting degree. I helped build his business from the ground up, and most importantly, I kept copies of everything. The next morning, I called my college friend Lawrence, who's now one of the top divorce attorneys in Illinois. I told him everything, and he said something that changed the game. "Diana, prenups can be challenged, especially if circumstances have changed significantly, or if there was fraud involved. We need to look at everything."
That's when I remembered. Before Preston changed the locks on our mansion, I had to get my important documents, but I also grabbed something else: 15 years worth of financial records, emails, contracts, and receipts that I'd kept organized in my home office. Preston used to joke that I was paranoid for keeping paper copies of everything. Turns out, that paranoia was about to save my life. Lawrence brought in a forensic accountant named Bernard, and we started digging through everything. And that's when we found it. The original LLC documents from Preston's first major company, filed 17 years ago. Right there in black and white, Diana Hayes, 40% owner. I'd completely forgotten about it. Preston had told me it was just a formality, that he needed my name on the paperwork for tax purposes. But legally, I owned nearly half his company. We found more. Transfer documents that supposedly signed my ownership over to Preston, except the signature wasn't mine. He'd forged it. We found receipts for jewelry, clothes, and trips for Candace, all paid through business accounts and written off as expenses. We found evidence that Candace had been on the payroll for 3 years, making 6 figures but barely ever showed up to the office. And then we found the big one, proof that my grandmother's inheritance, the $75,000 that funded Preston's first real estate deal, was documented as a loan, not a gift. I had him. On fraud, forgery, tax evasion, and breach of fiduciary duty. But I didn't want to just win in court. I wanted Preston to feel every ounce of pain he'd caused me. I wanted him to lose everything, the way he'd tried to make me lose everything. Lawrence filed a countersuit that was 43 pages long. We demanded a complete forensic audit of every business Preston owned. We froze all joint accounts. We claimed 50% ownership of not just the company, but every property, every investment, everything acquired during our marriage. And we sued for damages, emotional distress, fraud, and loss of business opportunity because I'd sacrificed my own career to support his. But that was just the legal side. I also called my friend Monica, an investigative journalist who'd been looking for her next big story. I gave her everything. Documents, photos, timelines. The article came out 3 days later. The Black Woman Who Built a Billionaire, How Preston Hayes Erased His Wife's Contributions and Committed Fraud to Keep Her Share. The story went absolutely viral, not just in Chicago, but nationally. People were outraged. Here was Preston Hayes, this self-made billionaire success story, and it turned out he'd built everything on his wife's back, then tried to erase her from history. The photos of my grandmother's check, made out to Preston and Diana Hayes for his first property, those went everywhere. The documents showing my name scrubbed from ownership papers, all there for the world to see. Preston's world started crumbling fast. 3 of his biggest clients dropped him, saying they couldn't work with someone under investigation for fraud. The charity boards he sat on asked him to resign. His country club revoked his membership. Banks started questioning his loans. And the best part? His business partner, Trevor, who Preston had also been trying to push out, came to me with even more evidence. Trevor and I formed an alliance. Between his 30% ownership and my 40%, we had controlling interest in Preston's flagship company. We called an emergency board meeting and voted Preston out as CEO. We exposed every shady deal, every forged signature, every lie. Investors panicked. Stock value dropped 40% in 1 week. Suddenly, Preston Hayes wasn't a billionaire anymore. He was barely a millionaire and dropping fast. And Candace? Oh, she was gone within 2 weeks. Turns out when the money dries up, so does the love. She emptied one of his personal accounts on her way out, took about $200,000, and disappeared. Preston tried calling me, begging me to call off the lawyers, saying we could work something out. I blocked his number. The settlement negotiations took 3 months, but I had all the leverage. Preston was facing criminal charges for forgery and fraud. The IRS was auditing him. His legal bills were piling up. His lawyers came to us begging for a deal, and I gave them my terms. I wanted 60% of everything, the mansion, a public apology, and he had to resign from all boards and companies we jointly owned. He could keep his real estate license and rebuild if he wanted, but he'd be starting from scratch. The day we went to court, I walked in wearing white. Power move, I know, but I wanted Preston to see exactly who he'd underestimated. He looked awful. lost weight, aged 10 years and 3 months. His lawyer did all the talking because Preston couldn't even look at me. The judge reviewed all our evidence, and I'll never forget what she said. "Mr. Hayes, I've been on the bench for 23 years, and this is one of the most egregious cases of marital fraud I've ever seen. You didn't just betray your wife, you committed multiple felonies to steal what was rightfully hers." She ruled in my favor on every single point. I got the mansion, I got 62% of the marital assets, which came out to about $47 million after everything was liquidated. I got ownership of the building where Preston's main office was located, which meant if he wanted to keep his business, he'd be paying me rent. And the judge ordered a criminal investigation into the forged documents. A week later, Preston came to the mansion to collect his belongings. I'd had the locks changed, had security there, the whole thing. He tried to apologize, said he'd made a mistake, that the stress of business had made him lose his mind. I handed him a box with his clothes and personal items and said, "Preston, you didn't just betray your wife. You betrayed your partner, the woman who believed in you when you had nothing, the woman who gave you her grandmother's inheritance because she trusted you. You could have had everything, a woman who loved you, an empire we built together, a real legacy. Instead, you have nothing, and you did this to yourself." He cried, actually stood there on my doorstep and cried. But I felt nothing. That's how I knew I'd healed. I closed the door in his face and got back to my life. That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm sitting in my mansion, completely renovated to erase every trace of Preston's presence. I started my own luxury interior design firm with part of my settlement. I hired 12 of Preston's former employees who'd been loyal to me. Trevor and I are business partners now, running the company ethically and actually turning a bigger profit than when Preston was in charge. I've been featured in 3 design magazines. I bought my sister Denise a house, and I set up a scholarship fund in my grandmother's name for young black women pursuing business degrees. Preston? Last I heard, he's living in a 2-bedroom condo in the suburbs, trying to rebuild his reputation. The criminal charges were eventually dropped to misdemeanors with probation, but his name is Mud in Chicago business circles. Nobody trusts him. Nobody wants to work with him. People ask me if I ever regret fighting so hard, if I wish I'd just taken the initial settlement and moved on quietly, and I tell them, absolutely not. Preston thought marrying a black woman from the South Side was his charity case, his good deed. He thought I should be grateful he chose me. What he didn't realize was that I was the best investment he ever made, and the worst person he ever crossed. My grandmother used to tell me, "Baby, never let anyone make you feel small, especially when you're the one who made them big." I didn't fully understand what she meant until I was sitting in that restaurant with divorce papers in front of me. But now I get it. Preston didn't make himself a billionaire. We did it together. And when he tried to erase me from that story, I made sure the world knew the truth. The mansion feels different now. It's mine, truly mine. Every piece of furniture, every paint color, every decision reflects who I am, not who Preston wanted me to be. I walk through these rooms and I feel powerful. I feel free. I feel like myself for the first time in 15 years. Sometimes late at night I sit on my balcony overlooking the city, and I think about that woman who got escorted out of a restaurant 6 months ago. She was broken, humiliated, convinced her life was over. If I could talk to her now, I'd tell her, get up, get angry, get everything you deserve, because the world will try to make you feel like you should accept crumbs, but you're entitled to the whole damn cake. You baked it after all. This is for every woman who's been underestimated, every woman who's been told to be grateful for less than she deserves, every woman who's built someone up only to be torn down. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's valuation. You set your own price, and sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's taking back what was always yours and building something even better with it. Preston thought he could throw me away like I was nothing. Instead, he threw away everything, and I caught it all. So that's how you take down a billionaire who underestimated his wife. Preston learned the hard way that the woman you built your empire on shouldn't be the one you betray. Now, If this story fired you up, smash that like button, share this with every woman who needs to hear it, and subscribe because I've got more stories that'll blow your mind. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you have done? Would you have taken him back or burned it all down? Let me know below. Until next time, remember, never let anyone make you feel small, especially when you're the one who made them big.